Good morning. My name is Luís Paulo. I'm heading the Environmental and Sustainability Department of CTP Post Portugal, and I would like to share with you some of our experience, some of our views on the challenges of environmental data collection, specifically about carbon footprint and energy management. I would say that we shall, first of all, have an understanding of what is our value chain and how does it interfaces with energy and with carbon issues. Because, as you see from the title, carbon can come from many different places in our postal organization. You see on the image that basically it can happen inside the company itself. You see this green arrow, but it can also happen outside the company, and very often what happens outside the company is so important or even more important than what happens inside. Briefly, because it would be a long conversation, but you see that inside the company we may have the facilities of the postal operator and the own vehicles, and outside you use electricity, which is not produced by you. You use other means of transportation, either for traveling, for business traveling, or for your own delivery. So this is, in short, what happens inside and outside the company. So first of all, we have to know what happens and which is the structure of our operations. What we know about each of these points vary a lot. For some of them, we have good information. For others, very few information. So this means that the overall emissions, they are usually broken down in several types of emissions. We call it scope 1, 2, or 3, depending if they are direct or indirect emissions. Scope 1 is emissions coming from own transport, which is property or leased from the company, or using of natural gas or other type of gas for heating, for instance. Scope 2 is, as I said before, coming from electricity, purchased electricity, or if you have heating or cooling in your facilities. Scope 3 regards subcontracted transport, of course, road transport, but also air transport or boat transport, or even train transport. You also have in this the transportation of your staff from home to office and back, and waste and other types of energy, of emissions generation. The size and amount of each of these scope vary depending on the operational profile of the company and on the level of maturity of carbon management of the company. But I would say that generally speaking, normally the most important is scope 1. So the emissions coming from transportation. Purchased electricity could be important, very important as well. And for some companies or for some posts that have a lot of subcontracting transport, scope 3 could be also very important. One or two remarks, just for us not to have the whole picture. You should understand, please, that energy profile is not the same as carbon profile, because you may have your measures to reduce your carbon profile. There are several pollutant gases, not only CO2. In the previous slide, you had a mention to several of them, but the good thing is that they may be converted to CO2 equivalent. Another point is that greenhouse gases, most of them they come from energy use, but some of them do not come from energy use. For instance, waste, the composing of waste may produce GHG gases. And there are, of course, other type of environmental impacts. Atmospheric pollution is important, but there are other environmental impacts from our operations. Having said that, let's have a look at the measurement of energy, because this is where all starts. So if in the end we want to have a good carbon inventory, we have to know as exactly possible which amount of energy we are using. Electricity, first of all, we may have information from the power supplier, and they provide us with monthly or other periodicity files with consumptions by meter or by facility, a point of consumption. If we don't have access to this information, we would have to rely on individual electricity bills. Each building is built, and there is information about amount of money, but also about quantity of energy. We may do this manually or automatically using remote measurement systems. This for electricity. For fuel consumption, we may also use information from the fuel supplier if we have a contract and if the information comes on files, or we may have to go to the vehicle level, and in our organizations, usually the vehicle may have a daily sheet that has to be filled in, writing down how many kilometers, and whenever there is a fueling of fuel, we also have to write down the liters. So this information, either manually or automatically, has to be taken in consideration. Probably the not so easy scope is subcontracting, because subcontracting is not under our direct management, and we have to rely on the information, indirect information. So usually we use the distances of the routes from the contracts to have an approach to the emissions coming from this part. Briefly speaking about the challenges on each of these, if you speak about electricity, so estimated consumptions could be a big problem, because companies, they do not always have monthly measurements, so sometimes they estimate, and this may provide a source for errors. In terms of fuel normally is more or less correct, but the information about kilometers could be not so accurate, so we have to be aware of that. And we also to be patient with our subcontractors, and slowly trying to have reliable and more reliable about their information. Briefly telling about the calculation of carbon footprint. So once you have information about your energy uses, we have to convert these to carbon footprints. And how do we do that? So happily, there are the so-called carbon conversion factors, which allow us to convert each type of energy, it could be fuel or electricity or gas or others, into CO2 emissions. As you know, emissions, they are measured in terms of grams or kilograms or tons, and you simply multiply the energy unit you are using, for instance, kilowatts for electricity, for a certain conversion factor, and in the end you get the emissions. It's something that you have to try, but it's usually very complicated. What's the importance of having this information? We don't have the information just by itself. We need it to manage things. And how can we do that? So first thing to do is to set targets, because the target gives you a view, gives you a long-term goal for what you're doing. If there is some type of high-level commitment of your postal organization or of your country, for instance, within the UN, the Sustainable Development Goals, you may use it as a proxy to fix your own carbon goals. Otherwise, you may go to a lower level, for instance, setting targets facility by facility or fleet by fleet based on the past record of each of these places and on the challenges you think are appropriate for them. But it's very important to have a target, even if it is a starting one and you improve it over time, but it's really important to have a view about where you're going to. The second thing is be regularly track down performances. So you gather information, you spread it internally on a regular basis, not once in a while, but regularly. It could be monthly or quarterly or something like that. And try to have it segmented, because your top management needs information which is different from the facility manager. So each one of them needs some type of information. What you have in the screen is an image of some type of information we provide inside of our organization. This is aggregated information. So you have information from the post shops, we have from the offices. This is a snapshot. This is not overall, and and apart from this, which gives you a global picture, we also provide every facility manager on a monthly basis about how her or his energy use is happening month after month. A third thing, you may use this information also outside the company, not only inside, but engage with the stakeholders, clients, general public, and give them information about your doing, your targets, and your successes and your challenges. A couple of figures, and it's just to show you that managing may provide you return. It could be in financial terms, and these are real figures from CTP Portugal Post. You have our energy consumption with savings, and savings turn into money, and also for value creation, because you may create an eco portfolio based on your environmental, your carbon features. So we have a part of our portfolio is eco portfolio, and this is doing well. You can also use this information for engaging your people. It is very challenging and is very exciting for people to know that they are not only helping the post to go on and be successful, but also to have a sense of commitment towards the society and towards environment. So these are two examples. One of them is a competition we do on a yearly base, eco driving competition, and it's very good because it involves a lot of people. Actually, all our employees that are on a daily basis driving, they are engaged in this competition. It also provides for savings. And another one, a smaller scale, which is a carpooling platform, which allows employees to move from less environmental friendly to more environmentally friendly transportation. Three advices just to finish. The first of them is that energy and carbon management means money. And sometimes it could be difficult to approach top management and to get their commitment for this. But please let them know that when you're speaking about environment and carbon, you're speaking about money. The second thing is, well, this carbon management or carbon measurement could seem to be complicated at parts, but please start with the biggest things. Biggest things are own transports and electricity. These two alone, they represent the biggest part of your carbon and energy consumption. So start with these, and later on you move to subcontracted transport, you go to scope 3, and so on. And the last thing is that, of course, money is important, but environmental management and carbon management is about other things. One of them is reputation, which is very important for your company, for the differentiation of your company, your organization, and also to engage people and to have a sense of commitment. Once you get this done and well done, you may have big results, you may have a kind of leadership which we believe that we have already reached, and we are very proud to share with you. So please don't be shy, don't be afraid, and please go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luís. And apologies to everyone that we had to restart the presentation. There seem to be some issues with the audio, so thank you to those of you who pointed that out in the chat. If anyone continues to have issues here in the presentations, please write to us so that we know. And we will now move on to the presentation by USPS, who will share some perspectives on data collection and reporting in a big organization. So without further ado, I will start that presentation.
This is Thomas Day, Chief Sustainability Officer at the United States Postal Service. Today I want to address the issue of environmental data collection and the various issues that we've encountered while here at the U.S. Postal Service and how we try to make it as successful as possible. There's three main challenges that we find really everyone will have to deal with. For the purpose of this presentation, we're going to split them into three very specific topics, although I think you will find as we go through the discussion, there is clearly an overlap that occurs between these three groups. However, as we go through the presentation, we'll treat the topics independently just for the purpose of this briefing. So first up are just fundamental data challenges. There are, of course, many databases in organizations. The idea that there's a single centralized database where everything is stored just simply is not the way organizations are set up. What's critical then to understand is you have these multiple databases of information you're trying to draw together for the reports you're creating is what we call an inventory management plan. And what that is just basically a high-level plan that outlines the various data sources. What's important to understand is this is not a one-time activity. This is something that you must review and update every year because as we have found out, I'm sure you will be the same, that various databases can be altered for a variety of reasons. So it is critical in the inventory management plan to document these data sources with a description of what it is that's contained, and that you keep detailed records of who are the contacts and what is going on with these databases. And by contacts, we actually mean people. Who are the people you can contact? Where are they within the organizational structure? Names, phone numbers, titles, and all of those things. That's what all comes together. And again, that becomes some of this interaction because to the people challenges, which I've already alluded to. What is critical here is maintaining information for who those various people are. That is not a one-time encounter. I know in any organization of size, you're going to see a constant change of people in and out of positions. You'll even see changes in organizational structure. It's important to maintain those relationships, not just by recording it on paper, but actually talking and meeting with those individuals to understand who they are and what is going on. Keeping close contact with those individuals is really critical to making sure that the data collection is done in a proper and timely manner. I can't stress enough that it's an interpersonal action. This is not just about sending emails and text messages. This is about meeting with these individuals to explain what it is you need. The slide very specifically says, are you speaking the same language? That's not a difference between English and German and Spanish or Chinese. It's technical language. We, in the world of sustainability, trying to gather data for scope 1, 2, and 3, cannot expect that everybody understand exactly what that means. And vice versa, they have technical language for what it is they do. It's important that you sit down and meet and talk to them, and so you can translate that technical language amongst the organizational structure and come to a clear understanding as to what it is you need from them and how that data is going to be used. What goes hand in glove with this people and data challenge is organizational challenges. We have, as I'm sure many organizations in the postal realm have gone through, are a variety of organizational structural changes. We've seen it in our facilities group, who's responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of our 33,000 facilities. They've done a number of changes through the years. In the last 5 years, it's important that we stay in touch with them, as is true with our supply management group that does the contracts and work orders for our energy contracts that we have around the U.S. Postal Service. Keeping in touch with them to understand how they're structured. Does that structural change in any way begin to alter databases or even entire data systems? And again, most importantly, the interaction with key people. As these individuals change, you need to know who the replacements are, and as soon as it's practical, set up meetings with them to understand what's going on with the changes on their part, but also so they understand what type of data that you need yourself in order to put together your reports. Again, we cannot stress enough that your ability to maintain your contacts and allow plenty of time for the data gathering. In our case, we do different data gathering during the year. We have a fiscal year that ends at September, but we also have, like most, the annual report that also is generated at the end of December. Timing is important. If you need a report for the end of the calendar year, it's not appropriate to ask for that at the very last minute. Allow for the time and coordination to understand how the data is set up, how it's going to be drawn down, and how you're going to put it together, and probably just as importantly, verify that there's accuracy, and to the extent there's anomalies, that you can have some time to go in and verify what's happened. So maintain the contacts and allow yourself plenty of time to put all of that together. So that's a very high-level view of what it is that we have done to meet the requirements of environmental data collection. Again, we've broken it down into 3 critical areas: the data itself and the databases and the structure of those databases. I can't emphasize enough number 2, which is people. Understand who are the appropriate managers responsible for databases, maintain direct personal contacts, make sure that you've translated the technical language so you understand how they're set up and what your needs are, and that that is clearly understood both in terms of what you want and the timing, allowing enough time to make all of that happen. And then last but not least is this organizational structure. To the extent you're going through change, the individuals in positions is one thing, but the actual organization looking at to validate that the data is correct. So thank you very much. That's our high-level view, and I'll be glad to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Tom. Very interesting, and I think we can already see that there's some themes that are reappearing between the presentations. So I look forward to discussing that more in the Q&A. I want to point out, in case anyone did not know, all speakers are, of course, online. So please think about what questions you might want to ask. Send them through in the chat if you want to. And then after the final presentation, we will discuss together. So the final presenter comes from Mexico, and he will share some experiences with trying out Oscar, which is UPU's tool for carbon analysis and reporting. So welcome to Gerardo from Mexico. We will start this presentation now.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all participants. Before I start my presentation, I want to thank Lovisa of the Universal Postal Union and Pieter of International Postal Corporation for being selected to present my point of view of challenge of the Oscar project. I'm Gerardo González from the Mexican Postal Service. I'm in charge of international affairs. Next slide, please. Well, we have many challenges to have some data gathering in the Oscar project. The first one was the project was initially assigned to another area of the organization, and due to a lack of effective communication, it was delayed in time without having clear answers about what had been asked. What is the importance of knowing the CO2 emissions of the Postal Service? In this time, when our nations had worries with the environment and sustainable development, we thought it was important to know the amount of CO2 we were emitting. The third part was the difficulty of downloading data from the Oscar platform and collecting them. That was a very, very difficult issue for us. When we took the project, we read the questionnaire and we could not download it to a platform easy to spread the information. We realized that we had to make a copy-paste of a screen print and place in the PowerPoint, and do not wait any longer to capture each question and request information for the involved area. Next slide, please. How to know and explain to the organization the Oscar objectives. To understand the Oscar object project, we first have to understand in order to transmit the importance of it and the great advantage that somebody will help us in measurement without any cost of a consulting company. As I talked before, internal communication was not effectively enough to get a response in immediate term. Our time pressure to have the information was not the best way to make an effective communication with the areas. How to sell the project and its importance to the whole organization. Well, we need that the areas understood the importance of the project, the speed of the data, and that they understood that it was not report, but it was a measurement that will allow us in the future to take decisions made with environment and our way of planning. Next slide, please. Even before Oscar, we didn't have an indicator or metric of the CO2 emissions that we discharge into the atmosphere. To have a number to know where we started for an improvement and in the reduction of emission was important to know for us. Being aware of these metrics and how to improve the standards, knowing the number of emissions was important to start making improvements in sustainable development. The importance that the Postal Union of America and Spain and Portugal gave to this project has in the member countries to gather this data. I must mention that in our region, we received support and encouragement from the POAS to collect the data and deliver them on time. We received a lot of pressure also. Finally, we understand the survey formal way. What we could do to get better information within the organization. When we received the final Oscar report, we analyzed that the efforts are not satisfied with information we place in the platform. It motivates you to have a good new start collection of data for the year 2017. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gerardo.
Can everybody hear us now? I suppose so, looking at the little microphone now. Yeah, thank you very much to all the presenters. I think these were very interesting, informative, and hopefully educational presentations to you all. We wonder if there are any questions that you have to either of the three presenters. I think, can we unmute one by one, or have they have to unmute themselves? We have now unmuted everybody, I think. So if there is a question, then now is the time to ask. Any questions? Any questions?
Yes, Mark Wagemans from PostNL Netherlands.
Hello, Mark.
Hello. I would like to ask if some of the members already have experience with collecting data for science-based targeting. So how do you use your scope 1 to 3 emissions and set a target to keep below the 2 degrees heating of the Earth? Is there anyone already busy with that target? We are now, right now, with Postal Netherlands in the process of doing that.
I think in the midst of us we have Luís, Paulo, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that CTT Correos has a science-based target, approved target. So Luís, can you hear us?
Yes. Good morning. Yes, we did it last summer. We submitted our proposal. We had a long dialogue with the SBTI. It's not so easy. We had to make several tries. It was not at the first try that we reached agreement on that. But I don't think that it really has anything much different in terms of data capture. You're used to submit your information to EMMS. Maybe there is more detail. Probably what's more different is the definition of scenarios. But it's not really something complicated. But it will take some time because probably you need several to do it in several steps. So have your first proposal and then approach SBTI, dialogue with them, get advice from them. They are very helpful. They are very good to have companies join the initiative, and I think that it might take you a few months, but in the end you get there. The final note is that we use inspiration and also as a technical help IPC's own submission to the SBTI. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes?
There we go.
You didn't. I had already made my explanation.
You have. Thank you very much, Luís.
Yeah. Okay.
Mark, is that okay for you? Obviously, there is always the possibility bilaterally or through us, Luís and myself, to get further into this this topic of science-based target setting.
It's Alan Lewis here. Can I just add something?
Of course. Welcome, Alan.
Yeah. We've been working. I represent Smart Freight Centre. We've been working with Science-Based Targets Initiative over the past 12 months on a specific transport module related to Science-Based Targets Initiative and setting. We were expecting it to be released in January, but they're going through another round of consultation at the moment, and we're anticipating something now probably in April, but that's probably quite relevant in terms of providing additional guidance for this sector, I would imagine. So maybe it will be easier with additional guidance.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
Are there any other questions at the moment? And obviously you can always send us those questions as well. I think, Lovisa, you had a couple of questions that came in earlier already.
I do. I also have some reflections after listening to these three presentations. I find it interesting that even though we've heard now from three different postal organizations of very different nature and size, there are some common themes that I notice all of them bringing up. The challenge of internal communication, for example, being one of them. So not just accessing the data, but also locating the people who have the data, also locating the right people that you need to get on board, whether it's management or colleagues. And I know that in your different organizations, you all have different degrees of automation of your systems. And for many, it's a dream to sort of push a button and all the data will be there. So maybe to throw this at the three speakers, do you think that is that kind of holy grail? Is it possible to chase that scenario, or will it always come down to reaching out to the right contact points within your organization? Maybe USPS can reflect on this. Tom. You will have to unmute yourself, Tom, to be able to speak.
Not only among colleagues, but all the way up to the CEO level, the more engaged you are with them, and I think we still have more work to do. I understand the higher up you go, the concerns are about the overall organization and the budget and service and everything else. There's many, many things they're worried about and have to deal with, but that communication is critical, not just to do reporting, but to actively make changes within the organization that have meaning and results that will be achieved. But let me turn it to Carolyn or Christine, or both.
Carolyn, Christine, you will have to unmute yourself. Hello? Carolyn?
Not working.
No, we cannot hear anything. There we go. No. Carolyn, I can see that you're talking, but I cannot hear you. Any reflections from Gerardo, maybe, since you were trying for the first time with Oscar now to collect the data necessary for your carbon footprint? Could you use existing processes, so data collections in your organization, or did you have to set up new processes for this?
Well, we are making some procedures to collect data for this project since the start of this year, and we try to make every quarter to have all data to have in advance the actual questionnaire from Oscar, and to build a very good data collection for the next year, because for us it was a good work, but we are not satisfied with the data. We need to put more emphasis in transport and in some parts of the supply chain.
And can I ask, were there any sort of added benefits that you realized in this process of your data collection? I know from Luís' presentation, he said you cannot manage what you don't measure. So I imagine there being management benefits from improved data collections that maybe can be used for additional buy-ins from your organization, for example. Is this something that you already in this first year made experiences with?
I have a little shortcut.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes?
Yes, good. So I was wondering, in this process that you embarked on trying to improve your data collection processes, were there any sort of additional benefits in terms of better management or better insights that you received through getting a better grip on the data that you had available?
Well, we need to start new plans because, well, in Mexico we changed the government this year, and we need to make a new plan, the new general government plans from 2019 to 2026, and it's very, very important to have this kind of data to improve some things about the equipment that we need to buy. Maybe we need to think about electrical vehicles and change a lot of things that we do in a old way to make more sustainability. For example, our bags are a little, they make pollution in our organization, and many things that we need to change. But start with a number, and we need to have better data collection, and then there are the facilities.
Okay. Thank you, Gerardo. Perhaps we can also hear from Luís. I know that you have your, I think it was an Enablon system in a sort of a turnkey way. What is your experience? I know that before, obviously, you did not have such an automated system. Is it worth doing it like that? Luís?
Yes, so just a thing or two on this particular issue. We have a high level sponsorship for the data gathering process, as we have our sustainability reporting tied together with the business report process. So they start exactly at the same time, and the addresses of these information requests, they know that they receive them in a certain period of the year, and that is being assembled together for the same purposes, and that information will be presented to the shareholders in the shareholders General Assembly. So this gives a powerful signal to the company. Of course, we have our internal partners or counterparts well identified. We rely on their information, on their commitment, and of course this is it's very important. We also have a strong point on our side, is that we have data gathering specific platform. We use a platform named Enablon, which is used for sustainability information data gathering. But does this mean that we have the gun that with one shot kills the beast? No, we don't have that, because there is plenty of manual of information that has to be gathered manually, and in the end we have to validate and screen all the information we receive. Some of them is more reliable, other is not so good, and this is very painful. It's very, very painful. It requires a lot of common sense and good understanding of things, and no mechanism, no software substitutes the intelligence and effort of the people that is directly managing this. Yes, I think that engaging people is very, very important to have their commitment to the process, and it makes information more reliable as well.
Thank you very much, Luís. Looking at the clock, and surely knowing that you have other meetings coming up, I would like to come to a close here. I would like to thank the three presenters, Tom, Luís, and Gerardo, for their great presentation and for all the help and for answering our questions. I hope you all could, despite the little audio hiccups we had, follow the presentations. Rest assured, all these presentations will be available on our website, so you can always look at it later on. And obviously, Lovisa will send you our both email addresses, so if there is any question, you can always, through us, ask questions to the presenters, or otherwise we might have other contacts that can help you. So feel free to do so. Again, apologies for the audio, but this was the first time, so things can have some hiccups. And I think, Luisa, you wanted to say a few words as well?
Never fun to break up a good discussion, but I hope, as Pieter said, that we can continue this. So if you want to follow up with any of the speakers or with us, please get in touch and we will take it from there. I also want to flag our next seminar or webinar, which will take place in November and be on the topic of alternative vehicles. So please let us know already now if you have any input for us for the next time, things we can do better, topics focus on general reflections. So we hope to see you back in November, but also that you'll be able to share the recordings of these sessions with your colleagues.
Thank you all very, very much for joining and for sparing your time and giving your input to us. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Step. Bye.